The best thing about having these guys on stage is I feel like Danny DeVito from Twins, and you guys are both Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's awful.
Thank you for that compliment.
Yeah. You're supposed to start with a joke. So a family goes into a talent agent, and do you guys know that one? Nobody knows that one? Family goes into a talent agent? The Aristocrats, look that up. It's good. These guys are amazing. Tyler, T-shirt Tyler right here. Oh. Tyler T-shirt, and Cameron.
Dress shirt.
And you guys are Bitcoin guys. It's been rough for you guys, right? But you still look good.
Thank you.
When did you buy in?
We got in, I think, summer of 2012.
What was it? What was the price then?
Single digits into the low doubles.
2012. So you went all the way high, and then you went all the way kind of.
We've seen a bit of a roller coaster for sure. Yeah, some highs and lows. Yeah.
So you were telling me before that when you pitch this stuff to Wall Street now, so you're basically our representatives, nerd representatives, the representative of the Bitcoin nerds to Wall Street. You're showing how Bitcoin can be used in financial operations. You're showing how Wall Street can use exchanges, all that other good stuff. What are some of the stories when you're down on Wall Street talking to these guys? What do you have to tell them?
I think like in the early days, people had a misconception because the headlines were dominated by things like Silk Road. So people didn't really want to touch it, or they thought it was all bad actors. I think Wall Street has definitely turned the corner in the past 12 months for sure. I mean, I think like I was once at in a closed door conference, I think like 2 years ago. And basically at that time, if you had drawn a line through Bitcoin, it was 4x each year. And I mentioned that, and they kind of chuckled because they're all skeptics, like nothing goes up that. And then of course, that was at $100, and the price ran up to like 1,000. Mm-hmm. Of course, some of that gain was probably a trading bot on Mt. Gox.
Did people like suddenly like come to your door and just yell like, we want to buy this stuff?
I think it wasn't like a mad dash, but people were talking about it. And then I think a lot of people in the community started reaching out and said, hey, look, we're thinking about taking a big position on this. How do we buy it? And at that point, it sort of dawned on us that like there's no easy way to buy it. Having bought it ourselves, you pretty much have to do it through dark pools or offshore. And that was sort of the genesis of our ETF, because a lot of these institutions are unwilling or unable to hold Bitcoin themselves. So creating like basically a trust, similar like a gold trust, was a way that they could get into the investment.
Describe, if you want to, Tyler, the ETF. What did you guys build out at first?
So we filed with the SEC an S1 registration statement. We've had a dialogue with them for close to 2 years now. And the idea is just an on-ramp that's accessible. When people have gold in their portfolio, they usually don't hold a gold bar. They hold a security in a gold trust. So, and a lot of people don't want to deal with the security of securing Bitcoin. It's not an easy task for the average user. So, but for the more DIY crowd who want to actually hold Bitcoin and don't just want exposure to it, but want to use it or for whatever reason, then we started to build Gemini, which is a New York headquartered, US licensed compliant Bitcoin exchange. So the ETF and Gemini are two different on-ramps for two different customers, if you will. Gemini will be more like a NASDAQ with, it's sort of, the way to think of it is like NASDAQ, E-Trade, and DTC collapse into one. So it has, custody of digital assets as a matching engine, and it's just like buying a security in some ways on NASDAQ. The ETF is a product that will trade on NASDAQ, and you'll buy a share in it just like you buy a share in Apple Computer.
So we're all friends here. Well, these guys we can trust them. Do you have the Bitcoin key inside one of your bodies, like a Jason Bourne style?
I do the brain wallet.
It's a brain wallet?
No.
My private key is tattooed, no.
What are you guys doing to make sure that all this stuff doesn't go Mt. Gox?
So air-gapped cold storage is pretty much the most secure way to do it. And anybody, I think, any early, people who bought a lot, and I hope they're doing it that way. Mm-hmm. And with Gemini, we'll have different tiers. You need to have a hot wallet to basically receive deposits and process withdrawals. But the vast majority of funds are held in cold storage.
We're using HSMs and multi-sig technology. So we've tried to learn from the the past mistakes in Bitcoin. Our first 3 hires were security hires. Our chief security officer was previously at the head of security at Airbnb, Google Wallet, and then before that, Microsoft. So we took security first mentality and approach from day one. A lot of times these guys are brought in, as employee, 20 or 30 after the product's been largely built without their oversight, and they have to put out fires and sort of renovate it. We're building with a security first mentality, or we have been from day one, and I think that was a different thing. A lot of the early Bitcoin companies, entrepreneurs, weren't really equipped to handle the success that they ended up having. Bitcoin was this really fringe technology that, only geeks, and even a lot of geeks didn't even know about it. It was like, geeks inside of geeks. It was really, really a small community. And then Cypress happened Cypress Balin in 2013. Boom, you couldn't turn on CNBC or Bloomberg without hearing Bitcoin. And all of a sudden, guys who were running a Magic the Gathering online exchange to people just were not ready for that. So we recruited our team largely from actually outside Bitcoin, but at top hedge funds and people who had dealing with a lot of security and InfoSec problems for over 10 years. So we really wanted to make sure we did this right and built our team the right way, and people who understood what it meant to do business with money. I mean, it's a very different startup. You have to get security right. You have to get a banking relationship. You have to get a bank to put their name behind you. You have to pick up the phone and sort of dialogue with regulators. And then you have to build a great product and a mousetrap. Most startups just deal with that piece, right? And the other 3 pieces are not part of it. So you got to string this all together. And as investors, we couldn't really find an outfit or an effort that was doing that. And we felt like we could do it right. So we just said, screw it, let's just do this ourselves and bet on ourselves. So we're not only building Gemini, but we're also funding it with Winklevoss Capital, which is our own private investment company. It's not other people's money. It's our money, it's our time, and we're doing the same thing with the ETF. And we have the passion, and we have enough knowledge about this to do it. We felt like we should go do it.
So this is for you guys. You can take this, use this how you want. I think you guys should have a Winklevoss Island, with like a skull on the top or whatever, like a nice, like stylish.
I like this.
And then it's air gapped in like a volcano. Then you have minions or whatever run around. I think you guys could just run things from there.
Just store all the Bitcoin
inside
the volcano.
That would be amazing.
What if it erupts?
It erupts as soon as somebody touches the Bitcoin.
Okay.
It destroys the Bitcoin and them. And then you have to start over again. I didn't think this through, but we can do this. We'll figure this out.
Okay.
Does it help that you guys are you when you go into the banks? Or would you guys?
I think it's a benefit. Bitcoin was a very young and immature space. So I think we come across as adults in that context. Although I don't feel like we're not gray-haired 50-year-old guys.
Not yet.
But not yet. One day.
I look forward to the point when you guys start getting edgier.
Yeah, I think that it certainly helps that they have heard about us. We've been public people long enough where people feel like they know us a little bit, and it's not like we're these anonymous guys. Where Bitcoin had suffered that a bit, we've gone through the scrutiny of the press and the public eye for a long time. So any dirty laundry we have has been largely aired, and I think we bring a bit of legitimacy and a face to that meeting where Bitcoin has been lampooned a lot in the press. It was called a Ponzi scheme at one point. It was called this place for illicit activity and drug dealers and stuff. So I think we've tried to use whatever name brand and we had to try and combat that, because it wasn't really it wasn't valid, but that's just the way it works.
Okay. So Cameron, you got angry back there when we were talking about this. You guys are basically like to hear the Bitcoin Reddits and all the sites say it. You guys are basically like the Backstreet Boys of Bitcoin, and everybody else is like Nirvana, and they're making.
That's not a compliment.
Yeah. That is a compliment, because think about it. The Backstreet Boys are far superior to
Justin Timberlake.
Right? They were better than NSYNC.
Yeah. Okay, they were better than NSYNC. So nobody else is the NSYNC. You guys are the absolute top.
Right.
But they don't consider you as serious contenders, or that you're dilettantes. What do you say to that? I mean, just yell at them right now.
I mean, Look, we've put our money where
I
our
think there's
mouth.
one Bitcoin guy in here. Is there any Bitcoin people?
Only one Bitcoin person?
Look, all
Okay,
these
three.
Bitcoin guys right
Great.
here. Yell at these guys.
I mean, look, we put our money where our mouth is. We don't just have skin in the game. We have our entire body in the game. We're building, a company in Gemini, the ETF, which is effectively like building another company. And we happen to hold Bitcoin and put a significant amount in that, and we've never sold, and we hold today. I don't know if we're experts. I'm not sure how you define an expert, but the goal is not to be an expert or popular. The goal is to change the world, and I think we're doing that, or at least trying to do it.
And
look, I think does Richard Branson understand all of the physics of his spacecrafts? I'm not sure, but he's leading the charge, and that takes courage, and I applaud him for that. And if anybody else wants to step up and do it, come right ahead. But we're just going to try and blaze that trail.
Okay.
I mean, it's easy to throw stones at anybody. I mean, people will throw stones at our athletic, careers. We rode for 15 years and we were Olympians, and people, will say that's not serious or whatever because it's rowing. Well, I'll take you to practice and I'll show you how serious that is. 6 a.m., 6 days a week, 11 and a half months a year, 15 years, no Friday nights, maybe a Saturday night once a month, kind of thing. So we're used to that. And look, I don't listen to the critics. It's really easy to be negative on anything, but we've had dialogues with federal regulators at the SEC for 2 years, educating them and pushing the ball forward regulatorily wise there. We've been subpoenaed by the New York Department of Finance. We came in and educated them there. We testified in front of them. We've been in a year-long dialogue with them with regards to Gemini and bit license type issues. We're building 2 companies, like Cameron said. We've invested in Bitcoin, the technology. We've invested in Bitcoin companies. I'm not going to apologize or look for anybody's approval, but the facts are pretty clear. And why people feel the need to, say, no one's an expert on every vertical of Bitcoin. Anybody who tells you that is crazy. Some people might believe that people who know more about crypto understand that expertise, but the thing about Bitcoin is it's stringing it all together, right? It's all these existing technologies putting it all together, and also building a successful company is understanding how to go into a bank and talk to bankers. It's understanding how to talk to regulators. It's understanding how to build a team with cryptographers who can secure it. It's also understanding how to build a great product, because right now Bitcoin looks like surfing the web in '95.
Sure.
Bitcoin addresses shouldn't be revealed to the average Bitcoin user if it's going to be mainstream. It's got to be easy. It's got to be everywhere, and yet people don't even recognize it's there. So, there's so many different disciplines, and that's why it's so fascinating. But if people want to take this idea of an expert as the academic person who goes around and speaks at conferences, that's great. But that's not going to only that's not going to do the job.
We could go speak at Bitcoin conferences every other weekend, right? And we'd be speaking to people who already love Bitcoin, who probably already own it, who are already onboarded. And that to me doesn't, I don't think that's how we're going to get it mainstream. We're going to get it mainstream by doing and building and making things.
Yeah, I mean, this is we got to build the bridges, the roads, the tunnels of Bitcoin, and that's what's going to make the difference. Like Bitcoin, people have heard about it. A lot of people understand it, some people don't, but the bottom line is it's going to take a lot of hard work. We eat, sleep, breathe Bitcoin every single second of the day, putting a ton of time, a ton of money in it, and so are other people. We're not the only ones, but it's going to take efforts like that to make the difference. And talk is cheap, but action isn't, and we're about the action.
Could you guys just manufacture one more yourselves and just send yourselves out to the Bitcoin conferences?
There was that movie like Multiplicity with Michael Keaton way back in the day.
I figure you guys would be the ideal opportunity for cloning, because you're already there halfway, and then you just one more or two more. Was that enough for you guys? Was that good, sufficient? You 3 right there. Was that good? Or you got everything?
We can always meet backstage too.
Yeah. All right. What does the world look like after you guys are done with it? Bitcoin world, whatever world.
I mean, I think Bitcoin potentially becomes like the global reserve currency, at least for the digital currencies and all the other potential altcoins that might come out. I think that it really creates there's 168 different currencies around the world, plus or minus. There's no borderless currency. There's no borderless payment system. I think the internet has been missing payments since the beginning, and they would have added it. Sir Tim Berners-Lee, they would have, in the early days, added a money over IP protocol. But it took until 2009 for Satoshi to solve the Byzantine generals problem, and now we can send value to the internet. It's really the last missing piece. 3 years ago when we first got into Bitcoin, I don't think people quite understood the inevitability of basically sending, instead of packets and money through the internet. And now I think it's becoming more and more clear how that's been holding back basically trade on the internet. The existing payment systems of FedWire, ACH credit cards were built in the 50s and the 60s. Yep. And we've basically hacked it onto the internet. And we've done a pretty good job. But it's time to basically now unleash the full potential, and it's coming.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Bitcoin is internet money. It's money that was built for the internet. But I think that fiat currencies go on blockchains. I think they're digital. I think cash is gone. I don't think that fiat currency just kills Bitcoin today. Just like I don't think it kills gold. There will always be a need for an independent, non-state controlled sort of value. So I think Bitcoin is more competing with gold. I think a digital U.S. coin currency, fiat currency,
like a
US
blockchain, Fed blockchain, basically.
Like a Fed coin will compete with the current cash system. If that happens, ACH, FedWire, they don't exist because you don't need them, right? Just like long distance phone calls don't exist, right? It all goes over the internet now as opposed to different legacy rails.
So now, right now, they're portly bankers choking on their Cabernet right now when you say this. So, are you gonna? What's gonna happen to those guys?
Banksters, right?
Banksters, yeah.
Look, I think that there's sort of we view Gemini as basically a bridge to the world of new money. There's like the legacy banking system, and then there's Bitcoin, and there needs to be a bridge, and they will work together. I don't think fiat is disrupted or killed. I think Bitcoin actually makes fiat a lot more efficient, transferring value and things like that. So we believe that they're going to work actually really well together, and it's not going to necessarily be one or the other. And I think that maybe certain streams of revenue in banks will dry up, but they'll find other ways. And I think ultimately there will be a ton of cost savings that a lot of different stakeholders will benefit
the
from.
banks that will evolve into a digital world will be there. The ones that still have brick and mortar outposts all around the country, that seems like that's going to be disrupted. Just like the fact that the old U.S. Post Office, down the block from where I live, is now an Apple store.
Okay.
So it's like that's not a disruption. That's an eviction, right? And those banks who don't modernize will be evicted.
I mean, if you look at the post system, right? FedEx and U.S. Post Office was basically ruined by email effectively. FedEx and UPS, they still exist. They've evolved. They're good experiences. They were always good experiences. The U.S. Post Office was always a bad experience. And so, it goes the way of a dinosaur.
You're going to make it better. All right, we are out of time. You guys are amazing. Let's give these guys a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.